I sold my freight network for $62 million. Cash in stock. Paper signed at noon in Chicago. By 7 p.m., I was in Manhattan in a dining room where the carpet swallowed footsteps and the pianist never missed. My son sat across from me. Derek, his wife, Ashley, kept a smile on like it was glued there. To you, Dad. To the man who built something from nothing. He raised his glass high enough for the room to hear him. I lifted my cranberry juice. Doctor's orders. My late wife would have called it a joke. She used to say I ran on diesel and spite. We ate in expensive silence. Derek asked about Florida. Ashley asked about a foundation. Boats, beaches, charity. I answered like a man who hadn't slept on warehouse cots through blizzards to keep trucks moving. I watched Derek's eyes. He glanced at the door, the check, my hands, always counting. He stood to use the bathroom. Ashley followed a minute later to fix her lipstick. The pianist slid into an old standard people pay to remember. When they came back, Derek waved the server over and reached toward my glass like he was clearing space. It took 1 second, maybe less. He smiled too wide and asked about dessert. I let the night breathe. Then I pushed back my chair, going to stretch. The hallway to the lobby was lined with framed black and white photos. Chefs, mayors, ghosts. A security guard stepped from a shadow near the elevator. Broad shoulders. Close-cut hair gone gray at the edges. Name tag, Miles. Mr. Reed, don't drink that, he said quietly. Your son just tampered with your glass when he came back from the bathroom. I stared at his face, not the glass. You sure? I'm sure. He tapped the brim of his cap once, then melted back into the wall like he had never left it. I returned to the table with a smile I didn't feel. I picked up the glass, let the ice touch my lip, then set it down. My stomach clenched, but not from fear. Acting is easy when your heart is breaking. I think I need some air. Ashley leaned in. We can drive you. No. I called a car. It's outside. I stood too quickly, made a show of being clumsy, and knocked the glass with the back of my hand. Red spread across white linen like a siren. Sorry. Let me. I pressed a thick napkin into the spill, lifted it slow, folded it, and slid it into my coat pocket. The piano didn't miss a note. Derek smiled like a man who had just solved a problem. The maitre d' asked if I was all right. Fine. Just a walk. Derek offered to come with me. I patted his shoulder. Enjoy your night. You earned it. He liked the sound of that. The night outside was sharp and alive. My car pulled the curb. I climbed in and told the driver Fifth Avenue, anywhere. The city moved like a river of sparks around us. I pressed my palm against a napkin in my pocket. It was cold now. Sticky. Real. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. You okay? Ashley followed with a heart and a question mark. I stared at the screen until the light died. Then I turned the phone face down and watched our reflection smear across dark glass buildings. I felt no anger. Not yet. Anger is loud and blind. What I felt was a clean line forming in my head. The kind you draw once and never erase. 30 years of bailouts. Gambling debt at 22. A crypto winter at 28. A failed fund at 31. Every time, he cried at my kitchen table and promised a change. My wife, Alicia, would stand at the sink and say he loves money more than he loves you. She died at 59. I stayed busy, so I wouldn't hear her voice in the quiet. The driver asked if I was headed home. Not yet. Home is for pictures, and pictures lie. I gave him an address for a lab that owes me favors. I looked at the skyline and thought about the glass, the hand, the tiny vial I hadn't seen but knew was there. I ran through what I needed. Chain of custody. A test result a judge would frame. Names, times, cameras, witnesses. Paper doesn't panic. The car slowed at a light. A couple crossed arm in arm, laughing at a joke they forget by morning. I touched the napkin again. Cold. Wet. Proof. My son had done something to my drink. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought I was old. He was wrong. I told the driver Lexington and 62nd. A private diagnostics lab over a deli that still smelled like onions at midnight. The owner owed me for a contract I'd steered his brother into 10 years back. He opened the back door himself, half asleep, sweater inside out. You look terrible. I slid the folded napkin across the counter. Cranberry. And maybe something else. He didn't ask more. He waved me into a hallway with flickering lights and called a tech who could work off record. The kid wore sneakers and calm hands. Chain of custody, I said. He printed a form, dated it, bagged a napkin, split the sample, sealed both. He logged every step while I watched the clock. My phone lit up. Derek calling. I let it ring. Ashley followed. Then a text from him. You good? Another from her. Please answer. I ignored both. The tech came back with a tablet and a face that wasn't neutral anymore. There's a trace of something unusual, he said carefully. A compound that can interfere with heart rhythm if someone drinks enough. You sure? He spun the screen, data and graphs I couldn't read but trusted. We'll finalize in the morning and notarize the report. Keep a split sample in your vault, I said. Store it under code, not my name. He nodded. Money helps people grow backbones. Outside, the street was slick and empty. I called the number on Miles's tag. He picked up after 2 rings, like he was waiting. You saved my life, I said. I've seen worse, he replied. Who else knows? Nobody. Keep it that way. You got somewhere safe to sleep? I do. I didn't. I walked 2 blocks and bought a cap and toothbrush from an all-night store. Then I took a cab to a small hotel that rents silence by the night. No ID, no questions. Checked in under an old vendor's name. The key beeped. The room smelled like lemons and old paint. I locked the door, set a chair under the knob, and sat on the bed. My hands shook once. Then they stopped. I could walk into a precinct with that sealed bag. A detective would listen. Maybe not. Derek would say it was an accident, a mix-up, a misunderstanding. One incident doesn't make a case. I needed a pattern. My phone buzzed again. Derek, Ashley, then a third number I didn't know. For words, don't sleep at home. No punctuation. No name. I typed back, who is this? No reply. I opened the safe, locked away my wallet and spare phone. Set an alarm every hour, so I wouldn't drift too deep. Drank sink water that tasted like metal. Thought about Alicia's voice telling me years ago. He'll cross a line one day, Tom. At 2 a.m., I called the lab again. We'll have your notarized report in the morning, the tech said. Want it delivered? Delivered to my attorney at 9, I said, and sent the address. At 3 a.m., I made a list. Evidence I had. Evidence I needed. Video from the restaurant. Timestamps. Witness names. Policy details. Every small thing Derek had ever signed. Then another list. Allies. Miles. The lab. Maya, my old COO. People who answer when I call once. By dawn, the window had turned gray. The city hummed under it like a slow engine. I looked in the mirror, tired face, steady eyes. I could act on anger, loud and fast. Or I could do what I'd always done, count, plan, deliver. I folded both lists and slipped them into my pocket. I needed a pattern. I needed Derek to tie his own knot while I measured the rope. And I'd already started the clock. Morning came too early. Coffee from the lobby tasted like metal, but I needed it to stay sharp. By 9 a.m., I was downtown in my attorney's office, the same man who'd handled the company sale. His smile was polite. Mine wasn't. New documents. I said. He frowned. Planning something? Protection, I answered. We built an irrevocable trust. No loopholes, no family access. The trustee wasn't a bank with golf buddies like my son. It was Maya Torres, my old COO, steady, loyal, allergic to lies. Beneficiaries, he asked. Alicia Reed Foundation for Community Scholarships, I said. And Noah Reed. Your grandson. Yes, not Derek. His pen froze midair, then kept moving. I signed everything, hand cramping by the end. Afterward, I drove to storage unit off Route 3 in Jersey, one I'd kept since the 90s. Inside, cold air and dust. I opened a steel box labeled Taxes 2011. Inside, not taxes. Files. Insurance. Receipts. The kind of paper trail you keep when you trust no one. Near the bottom, a folder marked insurance. 3 weeks old. Policy on me for $2 million. The policyholder, an LLC called Kesson Holdings. Derek's shell company. Beneficiary, Derek Reed. I took photos. He hadn't just crossed a line. He prepared everything. The timing, the policy, the signature that wasn't mine. I texted Maya, run background on Keston Holdings. Fast and quiet. She replied, on it. By late afternoon, I drove to Queens. A guy there installs trackers for rental fleets and doesn't ask why. He handed me a magnet the size of a key fob. Battery runs 2 weeks, he said. Stick and forget. That night, I wore a delivery vest and walked up Derek's driveway. No one saw me. I crouched under his Range Rover and attached the tracker. Solid click. Done. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you want to live, don't trust her, especially not her. No name, no punctuation. Her could mean Ashley, could mean someone else. His mother was gone. His Aunt Eve? Too greedy for innocence. I saved the number under ghosts. At the hotel, I spread all my notes on the table. Receipts, screenshots, the napkin photo. A web was forming. I wasn't chasing anger anymore. I was managing logistics, something I'd always been good at. Every move, every mile. A system. When the city outside started quiet, I stood by the window and looked down at the empty streets. He thought I'd fade. He thought I'd let it go. He forgot I built an empire from trucks and timing. Now I was building something else. A case, and by morning, the first gear was already turning. Sunday dinner. Derek's house in Westchester looked like it belonged in a design catalog. Glass stairs, a chef's kitchen nobody used, and art that cost more than cents. Ashley greeted me with her polite smile. You look better, Tom. I'm managing, I said. We ate steak that could have fed a small town. Derek talked too much. New projects, new partners, endless optimism. I let him run. I kept count instead of conversation. When he paused to refill my glass, I caught his hand, trembling slightly. Maybe guilt. Maybe nerves. Dad, you okay? He asked. I'm fine, I said, then let my hand drift to my chest. Time for the test. The first groan came easy. I leaned forward, breathing shallow, eyes half shut. Ashley jumped to her feet. So fast her chair toppled. He's not well, she cried. Derek stood halfway, then stopped, watching too closely. I'll get your medicine, she said, rushing toward the cabinet. A cabinet she knew was empty. I let myself slide to the floor, slow but deliberate, cold tile under my palms. The act felt too natural. Derek called for help, voice shaking just enough to fool an audience. The neighbor's nanny appeared at the doorway, wide-eyed, a perfect witness. Within minutes, medics filled the foyer. Machines, lights, straps. I kept my breathing shallow and my eyes fluttering. They loaded me onto a stretcher. Ashley held my hand. Derek stood back, lips pressed, unreadable. White Plains Hospital. Bright lights. Quick checks. Monitors beeping in rhythm. A doctor said I'd be kept overnight for observation. Derek nodded too eagerly. Ashley typed messages with her head down. At 2 a.m., a nurse replaced my forebag. I caught the reflection in the monitor. Different nurse half an hour later. Another bag, different label. That wasn't standard. I waited, then snapped a photo under the blanket. A quiet insurance policy. My phone buzzed under the sheet. Unknown number again. For words. Don't fall asleep. She'll try again. My pulse spiked. Through a slit in the curtain, I saw Ashley sitting beside Derek, whispering, smiling like nothing was wrong. I loosened the clamp on the line, just enough to slow the drip. Watched, listened. When the nurse returned, she froze at seeing my eyes open. I said nothing. She left without a word. By dawn, the doctor said I was stable and could go home the next day. Derek looked disappointed. Ashley forced a small laugh that died halfway out. When they finally stepped into the hallway, I texted Miles. Hospital. Something off. 2 nurses. Possibly paid. He replied instantly. Got you. Don't trust anyone till I'm there. I stared at the 4-bag glowing under the lights. Whatever game they were playing, it wasn't guesswork anymore. This wasn't about suspicion. It was confirmation. And I was done pretending. They let me go at noon. A list of prescriptions in a plastic bag, a handshake, and a reminder to rest. Outside, the light felt too bright. Miles waited near the valet, arms crossed, like part of the building. You look alive, he said. Barely. We crossed the street to a coffee shop, crowded with scrubs and silence. He stirred his drink without looking up. You ever wonder why I warned you? I figured you just had a conscience. He gave a dry laugh. Those don't pay rent. So why help me? He slid a phone across the table. A still image. Derek at the restaurant. Hand near my glass. Something small between his fingers. Security footage. Miles said. Different camera angle. Management didn't even know it saved the cloud. I studied it. Pulse steady but cold. You can get me the full video? Already did. Time-stamped, metadata clean. Notarize if you need it. I nodded. Why go this far? He leaned back. You gave my mother a job once. Rita Miles. Dispatcher. She stayed clean because of that. She died proud. I'm just closing the loop. I didn't answer. Gratitude doesn't cover debts like that. He tapped again, showing another image. Derek, same night, meeting a man behind a bar in Hell's Kitchen. Passing him an envelope. That's Troy Keenan. Miles said, he collects payments for people you don't want to owe. Same guy was near the hospital garage. Keep tracking him. I said, already on it. Your tracker under Derek's car helps. I'll sync it. He slid a small recorder and a notebook across the table. Write everything. Names, times, anything said. When things move fast, paper wins. You think I'm steady enough for this? I asked. He gave a thin smile. You build a company out of chaos. You can handle one more route. I opened a notebook and wrote the first word, evidence. We sat in silence a while. Outside, an ambulance wailed past. Inside, everything felt too still. Miles drained his cup and stood. Don't go home. If they miss once, they'll try again another way. What way? He looked at me. Money makes people creative. He left me with a recorder, the photo, and a reminder that not all debts are written in ink. I stared at Derek's frozen smile on the screen. The moment before everything changed. The moment that told me who he really was. He'd crossed from desperation to planning. And I had just found my first witness. The plan wasn't revenge anymore. It was logistics. One last operation, no mistakes, no mercy. I shut Derek's access off like turning a valve. Not with shouting, with numbers. The trust gave me leverage. Maya handled the details. Quiet, precise. Derek's house sat on a private loan from a lender who thrived on late payments. The trust bought that loan in full. Then Maya sent a notice of default. Pay $840,000 in 10 days or ownership transfers. My phone lit up for an hour straight. 7 missed calls. Then voicemails that swung from anger to begging. I let them pile up. Ashley called once. Her voice was small. He's scared, Tom. He says you're punishing him. I'm just balancing accounts. I said. She went quiet, then, can we meet? He checks my calls. She chose a bar in Queens, old booths, sticky tables, jukebox that never worked right. She sat with her hands around a coffee she didn't drink. He took out an insurance policy on you, she said. Said it was a hedge, a business precaution, through an LLC called Keston Holdings. I said nothing. I wanted her to keep talking. He's deep in debt, Tom, to the wrong people. They've been calling nonstop. He promised the money soon. How soon? Soon enough to worry me, she said. And he said if I don't help him fix it, he'll... She hesitated, voice catching. He mentioned my sister. She's 19. He knows where she works. I looked at her carefully. Is she safe? For now. She kept her eyes on the table. He told me what happened at the restaurant was a mistake, that he panicked after. But then he started planning again, different ways. It's like he can't stop. Did you send me the text? The one that said not to trust you? She shook her head fast. No, but I think I know who did. I leaned back. The air in the bar smelled of cheap cleaner and lost hopes. She wasn't lying. She was cornered. When I got outside, I called Maya. Track any movement from Keston Holdings. Transfers, withdrawals, contacts tied to a man named Troy Keenan. Already running it, she said. You want me to freeze assets if we find them? Yes. Quietly. In the car, I checked the tracker feed. Derek's SUV was still at home. No movement. He was waiting, maybe for me, maybe for a miracle. By sunset, a notice would be taped to his front door. By sunrise, calls would start from every lender he owed. He thought money could buy time. It couldn't. Not this time. He'd built his empire on borrowed credit and good faith. I'd built mine on logistics. And logistics always win. Ashley's sister worked nights at a diner near Newark Airport. We met in a back booth that smelled of coffee and fried air. She was small, sharp-eyed, and nervous, the kind of person who checks every reflection twice. You sent the warning? I asked. She nodded, twisting her napkin. Yeah, he made me do other stuff before, but that one was mine. I couldn't let it go too far. What'd he make you do? She looked toward the door. He found out one of the hospital staff was a cousin of my friend. Paid her cousin to change something in your room. Said it was just a mix-up, a test. I didn't believe him. The room went quiet around us. Can you testify? I asked. If I have to, she said, and her eyes trembled when she said it. My phone buzzed. Miles, Hell's Kitchen. Back alley. Midnight. Bring no one. We parked a block away in his old car. Rain made the street shine like metal. Derek showed up on time. Hoodie up, envelope in hand. He met a man I recognized from photos. Troy Keenan. They spoke briefly. Derek passed the envelope. Troy counted and left on a motorcycle. Miles zoomed in on the shot. That's clear enough to use, he said. Money changing hands. Time stamped. Keep a copy off-site, I told him. If anyone asks, it doesn't exist yet. Back at the hotel, I called an old contact, an assistant U.S. attorney who once used my audits in a freight case. She answered after 2 rings. Tom Reed, she said. You calling because you're bored or in trouble? Trouble, I said. I laid out the facts, not feelings. The napkin analysis, the corporate paper trail, the video from the restaurant, the policy in Keston Holdings, the hospital incident, the alley meeting. She listened without interruption. When I stopped, she said, You've got enough for several charges, but if you want this to stick, we move methodically. You want him taken in tonight? No. You want him to feel it first? Yes. She paused. Then do exactly what I say and keep collecting. I agreed. She gave me a list of next steps, record dates. Store copies in multiple locations. Avoid direct confrontation. When I hung up, Miles looked at me. You trust her? As much as anyone left, I said. The city outside glowed wet and restless. I watched the lights blur through the window. Every piece was falling into place. Derek's debts, his partnerships, the false accounts. It was almost complete. The next move would decide whether this ended in a courtroom or a graveyard of reputations. Either way, it would end. The meeting was set for Friday evening at the old lake house upstate, the same place where Derek learned to throw a ball and tell half-truths. It hadn't seen life in years, just dust, pine, and the echoes of summers that used to mean something. I called him that morning. We need to talk, Derek. Just us. He agreed too quickly. That told me everything. Miles arrived first, blending into the trees with a small surveillance crew from the AUSA's office. No flashing lights, no badges, just quiet professionals setting up cameras. Their job, record everything, keep the chain of evidence clean. By dusk, Derek's SUV rolled up. Ashley was with him. She stepped out slow, eyes down, voice gone small. Derek carried that familiar false calm, the one he used to wear before asking for another loan. Inside, the air was still. Dad, he started, voice trembling at the edges. I'm sorry. I messed up. I can fix it. We can fix it. I just need a chance. You had chances, I said. I set a folder on the table. The lab analysis, the insurance policy, the photos, the transaction with Troy Keenan. He looked at them, then gave a tight smile. You think paperwork can hurt me? You built your whole life on documents. You think I didn't learn from that? No, I said. You learned the wrong lessons. Ashley stepped closer to the table, voice barely a whisper. Derek, please stop. He turned to her, anger cutting through the charm. You talked to him? You don't know what you've done. I stepped between them. This isn't about her anymore. He laughed once, sharp. You won't do anything, Dad. You never did. You just watched while I failed. Not this time. Before he could answer, headlights flashed across the windows. Miles walked in with 2 federal agents behind him. Calm, quiet, efficient. Derek spun toward the back door and stopped. The man from the alley, Troy Keenan, was out there halfway to the car, seeing the agents. He turned and ran, slipping on gravel. The agents moved fast. A clean operation. Derek stood frozen, realization washing over him. You set me up, he said. No, I said. You set yourself up. I just kept the records. The agent stepped forward. Derek didn't fight. He just looked at me with something between confusion and loss. Then they led him outside. The sound of gravel under their boots was the last echo of him I wanted to hear. When the vehicles pulled away, silence came back. The papers on the table fluttered in the breeze from the open door. The same papers he once mocked. Paper didn't just outlast him. It ended him. And for the first time in months, the clock in my head stopped ticking. The AUSA didn't start with the most serious charges. She went after what would stick first. Money, wire fraud, conspiracy, false documentation. Enough to make Derek realize the wall was real this time. The policy under Keston Holdings tied everything together. Ownership trail, forged signatures, digital timestamps. His own spreadsheets became the strongest evidence. Ashley cooperated fully. She gave the texts, the emails, even voice messages. Her sister confirmed the hospital incident. The lab report came notarized. The restaurant footage was crystal clear. Within days, Derek's business accounts froze. The Range Rover disappeared from the driveway. Calls stopped. His world ran out of excuses. Miles kept me updated from a distance. He didn't gloat, just observed. He's unraveling, he said once. Not angry, scared. Derek's lawyer called me outside the courthouse. Mr. Reed, we can still resolve this quietly. Family doesn't need exposure. Family ended the night he tampered with my glass. I said. He sighed, studied my face. You're vindictive. No, I answered. I'm balanced. Maya worked faster than anyone. She called the mortgage, the cars, every asset still in his name. By the end of the week, there wasn't much left. The collectors who once knocked on his door started calling mine, asking if he'd recover. I told them not to expect miracles. The AUSA said Derek had taken a deal, cooperation in exchange for time reduction. He'd testify about others involved, including Troy Keenan. He thought he'd be free in 4 or 5 years. He tried to call me through the correctional system. The recording said, "Read Derek," before disconnecting. I let it ring out. The message came later. You did this. I read it once. Deleted it. No, son. You did this. I just counted the losses. At home, I opened old boxes. Alicia's notes, ledgers, photos. One of them carried her handwriting. He'll hurt you one day if money's involved. Promise me you'll see it coming. I hadn't. Not soon enough. But now there was peace. Quiet, steady peace. No calls. No lies. No tension waiting under a dinner table. Just air. His plea deal hit the news for one day. Then the world moved on. The AUSA called, confirmed the sentencing date. She said she didn't need me there, but I said I'd come anyway. Not for closure, for confirmation. That night, I sat by the window, watching the city hum. Trucks below rolled steady, their lights tracing the same patterns they had for years. Revenge wasn't rage anymore. It was arithmetic. The final line on a ledger that finally balanced. The courtroom felt old, wood, dust, and quiet breathing. I sat in the second row. Same suit as the day I signed away the company. Ashley was across the aisle with her sister and my grandson, Noah. The boy tried to look brave, but his eyes stayed fixed on a man in cuffs at the defense table. Derek entered, thinner, slower, older than his years. He scanned the room until he found me. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to speak. When he did, it was barely a whisper. "Dad, help me." "I already did," I said softly. The judge read the charges: financial manipulation, falsified documents, conspiracy. Then came the sentence: 12 years, restitution, counseling. Words that felt like the closing of a heavy door. Derek didn't argue. He turned once, as if expecting something more, but there was nothing left to say. The guards let him out. The sound of chains and shoes on the floorboards was the only music in the room. Outside, light poured through the courthouse windows. Ashley approached with Noah beside her. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything. I believed him because I wanted to." "I know," I said. "We all did." Noah looked up at me. "Is Dad coming home soon?" "One day," I said, "when he learns what home means." Miles waited by the steps, a shadow against the marble. He handed me a small envelope. "Found this in your wife's old safety box," he said. Inside was a letter in Alicia's neat handwriting. "Tom, if you're reading this, it means I was right. I asked Miles to keep watch. Derek's heart runs on need, not love. Protect yourself, and forgive me for seeing it first." I read it twice. She'd known years before I could admit it. Her clarity had saved me even after she was gone. Miles cleared his throat. She planned further than either of us guessed. "Yeah," I said. "She always did." He nodded toward Ashley and Noah. "What now?" "Now I start clean," I said. That evening, I met them at the same Manhattan restaurant. The pianist was there again, playing the same soft tune. I ordered cranberry juice without thinking. The waiter brought it over, the glass catching the light. I looked at it for a long second, then slid it across to Ashley. "You order something you like. I'll take water." She laughed, small and real, the kind that means release. We ate in a silence that didn't hurt. Outside, the city kept moving, trucks gliding down streets I used to control. Life still running on schedule. People call revenge an emotion. They're wrong. It's balance, patient, methodical, exact. I didn't get my son back. I got my truth, my peace. When I stood to leave, I looked once more at the untouched red glass on the table. Still, harmless, finally just a drink, and I thought, maybe this was what justice really looked like. Quiet, complete, balanced.